Hey y'all, welcome back to another Real Housewives of Atlanta season 16 episode 12 review, honey. Y'all know how I do. We just gonna jump right into it. So the scene opens up, and y'all, of course, as I always say, if I'm looking elsewhere, down, in this case in front of me, basically not at y'all, I'm looking at my notes, okay? All right, so the show opens up with Shamia and Kelly. They're meeting at Shamia's house, and Kelly wants to host a girls trip to the Caribbean and Grenada, and she wants Shamia, well, she tells Shamia that she wants her to help put it together. Basically, Kelly's gonna host the trip, and she wants, you know, a little co-host, so that'll be Shamia. She picked Shamia. It's funny how she didn't pick Brett, her bestie, but whatever. So she tells Shamia that she wants to, you know, put this trip together and have a nice little girls trip because her divorce date is coming up, her meaning Kelly's. Her divorce date is coming up, and she feels like she really needs to get away or whatever. She said that this has been going on for 2 years, the divorce, and that, you know, with any divorce, you know, especially when it's business involved, it's physically, mentally, financially draining, you know, and it's just, she said she feels like her ex wants her soul at this point, child. And, you know, when she said that, I was just like, girl, are you trying to tell us something further? Because that's how I took it. You know, judging by some of the other things she has told us about this man in the past, how he was abusive, and, you know, was trying to stop everything she had going on. He just seems like one of those really abusive men. So when you said at this point, when she said at this point she thinks he wants her soul, honey, I was like, I don't know, girl, you better be careful. And she also said that her divorce attorney bill is $158,000, y'all. Like, that's crazy. That is crazy. Like, y'all can have that. Like, y'all can have that divorcing ish. Like, I mean, obviously, you know, they have money like that, so of course it's going to cost them a lot, you know, to utilize certain services, you know. But damn, $158,000, that's $160,000 pretty much, and that you are spending trying to disconnect from this man. Like, that's crazy. But anyway, you know, they talked a little bit more about that, and they even called Shamia. I don't know where Shamia thought she was going, because I don't know why to me, she felt like Grenada is a third world country. She over there talking about, you know, she's willing to give them a lot of love and financial help and shit. Now, I know, you know, they're not one of the richest countries in the Caribbean, but they're not poor like that, Shamia. Like, you're not going over there to take care of the homeless and hungry, girl. Like, girl, where you think you going? Shamia's a trip. But anyway, they left on that note, you know, or whatever the case. So then we go to Portia. Portia, Miss Diane, and Lauren, they are house hunting for Portia, or for all three of them. Like, you know, because nobody can convince me that they don't all live with Portia. They are out there, well, yeah, they are out there house hunting and viewing a $4.2 million home, 8 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms. Portia, who else besides your mother, Lauren, and the 2 babies gonna be living there? That you need 8 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms. But baby, you don't have Simon's money anymore, sweetie. Like, where will you? like girl. But I know it probably was just for the show or whatever, because I know Portia. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and count that lady money like that. I don't know what Portia's bank account looks like, but by her actions and by, you know, her not having a job right now outside of Housewives of Atlanta, I do understand she has a business, what do you call it? Her hairline and her linen line, but they're not racking in that type of money, baby. So you better stay your ass right where you at. If Portia was smart, she better stay her ass right where she is. And she may not be able to stay there. That's another reason why she's house hunting. But girl, okay, you could dream, because she did say, you know, she has to visualize, or she likes to visualize, you know, the future for her and Pilar, you know, somewhere to lay their head. But Portia, 4.2 million, baby, you be a goddamn fool if you try, or if she tries. She'll be a goddamn fool if she tries to go and purchase another home with that amount, in that price range. Okay, you not giving Shamia tease, baby. I know she's trying very hard to keep up with Shamia, but you don't have Shamia's money, and you don't have the man that Shamia has. So it's just you in this case, boo-boo. But like I said, I just figured that was for the show or whatever. Portia ain't really looking for no $1 million homes, because she ain't got it like that, period. I mean, like I said, I ain't counting the lady pockets. But Portia don't have that type of money to just be throwing on a house, okay? So then we see Shamia go to the radio station to promote her music. I think it was V103, Tigger, down there in Atlanta. Those are her friends, so she was very comfortable on the show, on the station, or at the station. But she was trying to shade Drew, like, because I think it was Tigger. He said, you know, one of your other cast members has music out too. And Shamia's like, well, she's never heard it, you know, on the station or whatever in case. And she was insinuating that Drew sings about inauthentic things, apparently. Shamia is still salty about Drew carrying Drew basically calling her a lapdog. Ain't no basically, she did call her a lapdog. Shamia is still salty about Drew calling her Portia's lapdog. Drew ain't told a lie when it came to that, okay? But Shamia still feels some kind of way, so she decides to take her opportunity at the station there and use it to shade Drew in her music. But I don't know how she's shading Drew, because Drew actually has an album out, and from what I hear, I haven't heard the album myself, but from what I hear, the album is doing very, very well. So what we didn't hear is Shamia's music, okay? I ain't heard her music on no stations either. Maybe down there in Atlanta. I don't have V103 where I live. I don't listen to V103, but on YouTube or anything else, I have not heard or seen any albums from Shamia, but I have seen, at least on YouTube, album presented and out there on Drew's, for Drew. So, I don't know. Shamia need to just stop. Or whatever. So then we go to Britt and Mark. Britt, you know, is talking about her event that she's putting on for her new shapewear and loungewear line or whatever. So her and Mark is, you know, readying themselves for that and moving on. So then we see Angela and Charles. They go back to visit one of their properties or whatever. One of their 7 investment properties that they have. I believe it's Angela's property, but I'm saying they because, you know, I feel like Charles still had a little hand in some of it, but whatever. So we're visiting Angela's properties, one of them, and she's a little disappointed when they walked in because it seems like it was unkept. Now, I don't know who that guy was. I don't know if he's supposed to be like the property manager or whatever. It didn't state who he was, but he was supposed to make sure that the house was well kept and everything was together so that it can show. Apparently the house has been sitting on the market for a while. Apparently all her houses has been sitting on the market for a while, and she's trying to get it out there, you know, she's trying to get it sold. So she was kind of disappointed when they walked in and they saw, like, you know, certain areas was unkept in the house, and even outside in the backyard on the patio area was unkept. You know, the guy left up some sheets, it looked like, or some botched looking curtains that he just threw up there. It really wasn't, to me, it wasn't presentable for showing, and I would have been annoyed too if I was Angela, you know, because she said she spoke to him and he assured her, and they did show us that he told her that all of that was going to be taken care of, and it was not. So I could see why she was annoyed, but she started to you know, get a little bit of stress from it, because that house ran for, well, she says her original asking price for the house was $499K. Then she dropped it down to $465K. And this is a 3-bedroom home, 2.5 bath. And I think it's like 4,200 square feet, a little bit over 4,200 square feet. And to me, it looks like a very nice house. It really does. And I think the asking price for that house was reasonable, even when it was at $499, you know. But she was just saying it's bringing a lot of stress, because now the house, she had to drop the price again down to like $338K, which is what she actually paid for the house. So she's not making no money back from that house at all, you know. And she's just saying that they $2 million. Well, she says she's $2 million in debt with all, you know, between all the investment houses that they have. And, you know, like, she needs something. They need to make something shake, honey, because that's a lot of debt between them homes. Okay. So I don't know what she's going to do about that. But then she kind of started venting a little bit to Charles, you know, about how, you know, the home that she had purchased for her family, her mother and her sister, how she spent a pretty penny on that house, getting that house for them. And, you know, now they want to move out and they're moving on or whatever. And I feel like, okay, Angela, well, you know, I don't see why she feels, unless, you know, this is just all we know. This is just all she's putting out there. Maybe there's more to it, but I just feel like I don't understand why she feels like unappreciative. She feels like they were unappreciative of the house. We heard her mom tell her, you know, that she just wants to kind of move on and do her own thing and be more self-reliant, you know. So, I don't see what's, wrong about that. I'm pretty sure they've been in the house that she bought them for a lot of years or whatever, So it's not like she didn't, they didn't get their stay out of it or whatever. But I can understand her mother finally wanting to feel like, she's not being a burden to her daughter. But then you have Angela on the other hand, who prides herself for taking care of her mother. And so she felt some kind of way. But, she'll be all right. She also apologized to Charles for not hearing him out, because he was like, like he over it. Charles is always over it per usual. Okay, so when she apologized, he looking at her like, girl, that's the past. Like, he don't be thinking about that lady like that. He don't think about none of that stuff. And so she just basically was like, she want to apologize to him for not hearing him out or whatever, when the situation happened back 3 years ago, when he and her mother had their little, argument or whatever, about him telling her mother that her daughter needs to clean up or whatever. To me, it didn't seem like it was that serious, but apparently the argument got very heated back then for them not to, speak to each other like that for 3 years, to where Angela, when they were in the same, areas together, Angela feels like she had to ask Charles, did you speak to my mother today, or da-da-da. So apparently, it was more to it, but Charles, like I said, was over it. He doesn't seem like the type that, like, held on to it like that, or holds on to grudges or whatever. He just keeps his distance and stuff, so, and keep to himself, Charles don't be about the drama, and I like that. So he actually, Angela asked her for a hug this time instead of a kiss, and he was very happy to give her a hug. Like, he wasn't happy about that kiss the last time she asked for the kiss, honey. He had all things to say, but he gave his wife a hug. I was like, ah. So anyway, we move on to Britt's event. It's underway. Her and Mark come in. Mark looks ridiculous. I'm sorry, he looks ridiculous. I don't know why he let Britt dress him, because he looked like he was a part of a circus. Like, I'm dead ass. I'm not even trying to be shady, but that's just what he looked like. He looked foolish. Like, where is you going with that outfit on? Britt, she looks cute. Her fit was pretty cute, but it's at a country club. It's a golfing country club or whatever. And so Kelly and Shamia arrive. Kelly comes first, Shamia comes right after her, whatever. They show up. Of course, Shamia is in her Balenciaga fit. Shamia is a walking billboard for these high-end designers, honey. Like, she gonna let you know she got money, okay? Every chance she get. Then she had her double C's dripping out her ears and stuff. She gonna let you know, baby, this is money over here, okay? But anyway, so she comes. They all, dressing up and whatever. And then Britt lets them know that they're going to be golfing too. Like, and they like, what, girl? We all dressed up, heels sinking in the grass and dirt and shit. Like, I would have sat that one out. But a part of me believes that that was a part of the bargain when she went over to ask them people, because she used a country club. Because other than that, they probably would have told her no, or she probably would have had to pay more than what she already probably paid. So that might have been a part of the deal. Like, are y'all going to utilize the golf courts in the golf court? Because if not, baby, no, you can't have your event here. That's because why else would you have your girlfriends come there dressed up to the nines, heels, knowing that we do not wear heels in grass? Like, who walks in grass with heels on? Like, not me, especially not my expensive shoes. Oh, no, ma'am. Baby, I'm not going to play the golf balls. We're going to sit here. I'm going to sit here and watch y'all, okay? Because the back of my shoe heels ain't finna be dirty. No, ma'am. Anyway, so they would have a little golfing moment or whatever, tearing up them people grass. And see, Portia came in. She was not with the shits either. She was like, oh, no, we not doing the golfing, okay? I'm not. So, everybody who was invited arrives, including Charles. I felt bad for Charles. I know he was furious with Angela at the end of it all, because he didn't seem mad when he was there. Y'all know Charles always relaxed and seemingly chilling or whatever. He don't care what nobody else got going on. He was in his phone, but I know he had something to say when they went home, baby, because he was the only man there, okay? The only husband there. Yes, I know Mark was there, but Charles was the only husband there, okay? So, but anyway, they all, like I said, everybody's invited. It seemed to have been some type of discrepancy regarding the placement of the people, because Britt had to go and let one of the hostesses, waitresses, I'm not sure of her title, but she went and talked to her, because she's like, this is not the setup she wanted. You know, she basically, the tables that had the placemat and menus on it was just for her guests only. I don't know who the other people were they just there for the, like, who invited all the other people that was there? And Britt didn't invite them. Like, I'm confused. Did the show just, you know, throw them in there like they often do, and to make it look like people came to the event? Because she wasn't prepared for nobody else. She said these placemats and menus and stuff, well, the seats with the placemats on it were just for her people, meaning the cast. She said that everybody else was supposed to just be standing around eating light bites. I'm like, girl, what? I'm like, girl, what? So it's like she didn't have enough seating. And then the seating that she had, people were just sitting anywhere because they thought that it was for everybody, which I'm pretty sure I would have probably thought the same thing. But apparently the staff was supposed to know that, because she did say the event planner came late. So they was a little unorganized and stuff like that. So they pretty much dropped the ball. So I feel Britt, on confronting them about it and letting them know, hey, like XYZ, y'all didn't listen to me when I told you this is how I wanted it. But I just thought it was very odd, because Britt basically was like, I ain't feeding all these people, like we don't got enough food for them. And she ain't say that, but that's what it was given. Okay, she was clearly given. She ain't paid for all these people's entrees, and they get hors d'oeuvres. Okay, if you're not a part of the show, you get hors d'oeuvres, and you got to stand up, because I ain't even got enough seated for you. Girl, it was given a little bit ghetto, because how you gonna make them other people, how you gonna say everybody else supposed to be standing and eating light bites? Like, girl, what first of all, what is a light bite? Light bites, hors d'oeuvres, much, but whatever. So I thought that was a key, child, because Brad was like, I can't feed everybody, okay? And of course, Shamia and Portia and even Cynthia had a little shade to throw in there. Portia felt like it was embarrassing. Cynthia was like, well, I could split my food in half so everybody can have enough. Portia's dumbass talking about. Portia was like, well, I'm going to eat fast so nobody don't know what I had. Like, they had a good key, honey. They had a key. So then Britt presents the ladies with a gift of her shapewear. And she sends it, she puts a box in front of each of them, and then they open it up, and it's, their shapewear in there. It's kind of like a bodysuit or whatever, but it's the shapewear. Britt said what inspired her to start her own shapewear line and loungewear is when she went and got her BBL child, and the fajas that they put the girlies in is ugly. Like, that sounds like something Britt would say and or do. Like, her light is not bright at all. Okay, so for her to say that inspired her to start her own shapewear and lounge line, like, there were so many other things, okay, that should have inspired you to do so, Britt. But she says the fajas was ugly that they put on you after you have your BBL child. So I'm not even surprised that came out of Britt's mouth, and that really truly was her inspiration. But anyway, who was it? Shamia, because Shamia been having a lot to say lately. Okay, she got a lot of energy and a lot of jokes on everybody and for everybody except Portia. But anyway, Shamia was just like, it wasn't even no tissue paper in here. It wasn't even dressed up and decorated in the box. You just open the box and it's just the shapewear sitting in there, whatever. Of course, Britt had to be messy. She gives Angela double XL. Okay, and Angela was like, nah, she gave me an extra large, or extra, I think she said extra large. And Charles just had his head down. And he just shook his head, because he already knew, baby, what was going to come next. I know he felt like, oh, shit, here we go. But Angela, being Angela, she left it alone. She ain't do too much about it or whatever, say too much about it. She left it alone so that, the event can move along accordingly and everybody can act like they got some sense. But as we saw, somebody still had to F it up, and it was Shamia, in my opinion. But anyway, so, but Angela did, she did say something funny about, she said maybe Britt mistook the size for her toothbrush that she should have had for her big ass mouth. Means like, so I'm just like, oh my God. So yeah, in the midst of it, Angela decides to blurt out, and Charles does not have a side baby, everybody. He looked at her like, girl, like, really, we doing this right now, Angela? But she did. She took that opportunity while she had everybody at the table who had something to say, okay? And she let it be known with her man sitting there that he do not have no side baby, okay? And so it kind of caught everybody off guard. Of course, it caught Charles off guard, but it kind of caught everybody off guard. And but then Charles says that, Brittany follows up with, well, I'm not one of his whores. And then Charles is like, I don't mess with whores. Okay. So Britt was like, oh, it's just a joke. It was a joke. It was meant to be funny. Charles said he don't find it funny. He didn't find it funny at all. Okay. So then the ladies move forward from that. Then you have Drew. She thanked Britt for the invite or whatever. And she said that, if they need to have a conversation, that she's open to it. Britt did agree. She agreed to have a conversation if necessary or whatever the case. So, of course, Kelly chimes in her 2 cents telling Drew, well, if you're going to have the conversation, you need to tell the truth, during that conversation. So Drew was like, I always tell the truth. Get to know me. Okay. I know that's right, Drew. Like, one thing about Drew this season, she not letting none of them just sun her, okay? She's not letting none of them sun her, and I'm here for it, okay? Period. Stop. Everybody want to come for Drew now. Like, I don't like that. Stop trying to beef with Drew, because all of y'all fake and phony, okay? One thing about Drew, at least in this moment, in this episode, she kept it 100 and she stood on business, okay? She ain't back down. She ain't twist her words. She ain't, how you call it, backpedal. She ain't do none of that. She stood on her shit 10 toes down, period. And I gave her fucking props for that. So like I said, Drew tells Kelly, get to know me, baby. And so anyway, Kelly says that Drew is a liar. Shamia also says that Drew is a liar. Shamia, you a liar too, because you came. Okay, we're going to get into that because I'm about to go off. But anyway. So Drew was kind of confused because with Kelly's behavior, because she was like, why the switch up? Like, it wasn't given that at Angela's house. You get here at this, at this event, and now you switching up doing the most. So she was a little confused about that because Kelly seemed like she was a different person back at Angela's house. So then Shamia wants to know how she caught it straight at Angela's house with Drew calling her a lapdog. So Drew said what she said. Okay, and she let Shamia know that she didn't respect her twisting her words when she carried that message back to Portia from when they was in the studio. And again, when Drew mentioned that the royalties that Dennis will be getting for helping her with her music and blah, 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 that little PJ College will be paid off. Okay, the way Shamia carried it back as if Drew was being funny and as if Drew was talking about Portia's child. At least that's how Portia took it. But as we saw, it didn't give none of that. Drew was not being shady. She wasn't trying to, well, to me, she wasn't trying to be funny. She said what she said or whatever. So, of course, like I said, Shamia had to carry that back to Portia and turn it into something else because she already knew that Portia wasn't feeling Drew. So she just had to add more fuel to the fire when it came to between them. So just like Drew stood on her word and she stood on her business, and she let Shamia know that she didn't appreciate her twisting her words and carrying it back to Portia and she felt like it was very much disrespectful. So that's why she called you Portia Lapdog, because she felt like you was only doing that so that you could stay in Portia's good graces. Clocked her tea. I was like, yeah, Drew, clock her tea. Okay, right in front of everybody. And all Shamia could do, as always, is try to get loud, try to make fun, do too much, doing the most or whatever. Because she had a little alcohol in her system, a little liquid courage. And just like Drew said, it's funny how Shamia got all this energy for me, but she don't got that same energy for Portia. Period. Again, clock her tea, Drew. Period. And Drew was like, well, it's a little hard. It was a little harsh. So Drew was like, well, what you did was a little harsh too. I felt it was harsh too. Okay. Yes, Drew, give it to the girls. Period. So they continued to go back and forth. And Drew was, like I said, was very clear on with Shamia on why she said what she said. And she stood on that. You are Portia's lapdog. Okay. Everybody sees it. Okay. Period. Or whatever. So, like I said, in true Shamia fashion, she started doing the most and trying to put on a show for Portia and others, looking foolish in my opinion. And Drew kept her side of the conversation very cute and mature or whatever. And just like Drew said, how old are we? Okay, and now Drew, Shamia talking about how old are we? When you talking about in dog years? Like, she was doing the most. You could tell her alcohol started kicking in because she was very much doing the most. I'm not saying that it's because of the alcohol at all, but I'm just saying you can tell when the shit kicked in. Okay. Because like I said, Drew handled her and left Shamia looking like the fool that she was acting. And Britt had the nerve to stand up and remind everybody where they were at and talk about this is a, you know, a classy event, you know, and if you have any side conversations or whatever, y'all need to go outside. Britt, did you feel that way when you was at Angela's classy event, her dinner, and you started your shit with Kenya? Did you feel it? You okay? So don't wait. That's what be killing me about people. Like, don't do shit that you don't want other people to do to you, okay? Because when the time comes, see, if I was sitting at that table, I would have kindly reminded Britt of how she acted at Angela. If I was Angela, I should say, I would kindly reminded Britt on how she acted at my dinner, okay? You turned up some ish at my dinner. We're talking about guns and whips and shit. Like, girl, now we at your event. Now you want to keep it cute and classy? No. Keep that same energy. So Cynthia, pretty much after that, you know, the ladies kind of wrapping it up. Cynthia was the first one to go because she was like, child, if they was going to invite me to a circus, then I wouldn't have wore my good clothes, okay? I wouldn't have got dressed up. So Cynthia packed her ish up. She was one of the first ones out of there, and everybody else kind of packed up and left as well. So then we see Drew. She goes to sign her first deal or whatever. She's with her road manager, Ashton, I think his name was. And they get Dennis on FaceTime because she felt like, you know, this is a joyous moment. Let me get Dennis on his phone because he's a part of her team now. So, and I want him to clear, she wanted to clear up any, you know, the rumors that's been spreading around about her and him. So, and he denied it, of course. And he basically said, you know, this is just all business. You know, it's always been about business or whatever. So it's just Portia spreading her lies and her drama and stuff, trying to get people to, you know, get on her side when it comes to Drew and Dennis. But what do I always say in every review, y'all? Nobody would ever have convinced me that Drew and Dennis had a thing going outside of the music. It didn't happen. I knew it wasn't happening. Portia was playing herself. So, anyway. So, like I said, Drew is very happy. She signs her deal or whatever, and that's all done. She's a very happy girl, and the team seems to be happy as well. So now we see Portia arriving at Phaedra house. I guess this was what they call saving the best for last or whatever. Anyway, so Portia goes to arrive to Phaedra's house. They're very, very happy to be reunited with one another, y'all. Immediately, Phaedra starts with her shady ass mess. Okay, she's asking Portia, you know, what's been going on with the girls or whatever. So they kind of flash back to, you know, Phaedra's run on the show until she got Candy fucked up. Okay, that's where it all went downhill for her, and they flashed that back to her, whatever, that lie that she told Portia that Candy, you know, drugged Portia or had plans to drug Portia and take her down to the dungeon, child. Y'all remember, it was a whole big thing, and that's why Phaedra got axed from the show, because she started a whole lie on somebody that she supposed to have been very cool with. Her and Candy were very cool, you know, at the time. I don't know, remember what the disconnect was for Phaedra. I don't remember, but Phaedra obviously felt the need to start this rumor and got back to Portia. Portia said it out loud or whatever, and then, you know, it went down from there, because ultimately she was saying that Candy was basically how you call it, drugging Portia and then taking advantage, or had plans on taking advantage of her under the influence. That's no, and I still can't believe to right now that they put her back on the show, even though Candy is not on the show. But I feel like, as we can see, that was just, they took Phaedra off the show at the time while Candy was still on there, just to pacify the situation or whatever. But as you can see, soon the minute Candy left, they offered Phaedra her job back, and that says a lot about Bravo. We all hear all the shadiness that Bravo was doing, you know, even discrimination and all that shit. So I'm really not surprised that they kind of let Phaedra back on the show now that they feel like the coast is clear and the fans been asking for her, whatever. But I don't think she should be back on it. I don't think she should have gotten her job back. Put it like that. She shouldn't have been allowed to. And I'm not one of those people who like to stop, you know, to stop somebody bag, you know. But at the end of the day, she should have been allowed to work with that network, period. Because that, like Candy said back then, that could have ruined her reputation. Candy could have been brought up on charges. Like, a lot of shit could have went wrong for Candy And for you to sit here and let this lady back on the show with the opportunity to do it again to somebody, even though I don't feel that she would because she suffered the consequences the first time. But I feel like it would allow somebody else, maybe not Phaedra, but it would allow some of the other cast members to feel like they can get away with certain things, you know, and then be suspended for a year or two or whatever and have their job back. Like, that's really not setting an example at all. But anyway, like I was saying, Phaedra was shady. Starts out with her shadiness. She called Kelly a gnome. She said Kelly is mad small, mad little, and she like a little gnome. And she's like, you know, I love little people. She called them small people. She's like, you know, I love small people and stuff like that. So, you know, being shady. And then she also shades Britt. Said Britt been I don't know if it's shading Britt, Connie, because I ain't gonna say it's facts, but it's probably facts. So, but she said Britt's been around town, honey, and the cities too. She said Britt is known to have a lot of bodies, honey, or whatever. So, her and Portia, and of course Portia was having a time eating up all of Phaedra's shade, honey. She was literally eating and then having a crack in her side, like Phaedra was being real funny. Portia brings up Drew allegedly sitting on Dennis's hot dog to Phaedra, and Phaedra was like, well, I thought she liked tacos. Boy, oh boy. She said, you know, here in Atlanta, everybody is very fluent. And is. So, Portia called Shami on the phone because she did invite, or she did tell Phaedra about their upcoming girls trip to Grenada that Kelly and Shami is going to be hosting. So, she called them up on a FaceTime to get their blessings, you know, to make sure she ain't pulling a Angela, inviting somebody that's not invited on a trip. So, you know, they all was okay with it or whatever, seemingly. But yeah, y'all, so I'm kind of looking forward to the next episode because that was kind of it. That was kind of it. Phaedra's ready to go on that trip and be messy. And Portia is very happy to have her road dog back. And watch how she treats Shamia now that Phaedra's back on the show. I don't know how many more episodes, because it's only like, what? I think maybe like, maybe 3, maybe 4 more episodes the most. I think the reunion is the last 2 episodes. So actual show episodes, I think it's only like 2 more left. But anyway, so I'm saying that to say I don't know if Phaedra's going to be on the remaining episodes. But I just feel like Portia is going to show her ass when her and Phaedra get together. And she's going to be rubbing it all in Shamia's face. That's what I think. But we'll see. We'll see. Of course, as I always say, y'all, I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be back with what I got to say about the show. But this one was a pretty decent show. It was a decent watch, you know. You know, it didn't give too much and it didn't give, you know, not too much. So, I enjoyed it overall. And I enjoyed reviewing it with you guys as always. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. As always, I'll see you in my next video. Peace out.